additions to the agenda for tonight? A motion to approve the agenda as submitted.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And motion to approve the minutes of the May 17, 2016 regular meeting.
I'll move.
All in favor?
Aye.
Yep. All right.
Okay.
All you.
At this point, we would like to recognize a few people. Dr. Bud Ballinger and Molly Johnson for their years of service to the Board of Education. Dr. Ballinger at 5 years and Ms. Molly Johnson at 6 years. And I think it's important to recognize the fact that these are volunteer positions, countless hours go in. I respect and recognize that as a former school board member. There's so much information to process, and we appreciate your service, and I'm sure the broader community appreciates your service as well. So we'll recognize you for your service. That's on one hand. On the other hand, I'd like to ask Mr. Paul Lehman and Ms. Michelle, please come up. Michelle Jacobson and Mr. Paul Lehman will be incoming school board members, and again, it's volunteer position and service to the community. And in my opinion, one of the highest forms of service you can give to the community is to serve on a school board with due diligence and selflessness. So, if you will, I'd like to take a picture of our outgoing school board trustees and our incoming folks. This is where I put my other hat on. And of course, anytime I take a picture, that means you might be on the website also. And if you can, and why don't you stand over here? This will be great. You guys are going to make this. No, say this. It's all about the kids. There's no reason why you shouldn't be in the photo. Okay? All right. Okay. This is good. Oh, thank you. Okay, thank you very much.
Further ado, into the Emerald Foundation and presentations of the teachers who granted funding from the Emerald Foundation. So, Andy, did you
just maybe intro a little bit,
Yeah.
less than 2 minutes. I know you only got 2 minutes to start with. No. First off, I'm Eamon Coddington, president of Hamilton Emerald Foundation, for those of you who don't know me, or people who know me, so it's more for the record, I suppose. I wanted to start off by saying thank you to all of the grant winners, and particularly those who are here tonight, and our students who really come up with these great ideas and come to the foundation, and then we're just happy to be able to fund them. And so that's on one side. On the other side, we're not able to do this without the community, without our alumni, without all of you. So I think it's 14 grants on here since last time we did this event a year ago. I think there were about 140 grants that we had done a year ago, so I'm going off the top of my head. So we're over 150 grants since we got started, so which is amazing. But we couldn't have done any of this without our donors, people who support us, support our work, and support all your work. So we're grateful to all of you who support the foundation, and we are just doing the good work that you want us to do and supporting the school. So without any further ado, we have 14 projects tonight. I think, Bill, you're going to take a couple. We're going to combine a few.
Yep.
The first, are we just going in order of?
Sure.
Okay, so then we're going to do the middle school council loan fund here. And we'll start there, and then work our way through it. So thank you again so very much.
Thank you.
I'm Jamie Bordway. I'm a trade teacher and I'm also the middle school student council advisor. I have Abby, Noah, and Zach here, and they're going to share with you our Loom project that we did.
So our idea was to create hats for people in need for our community. So we donated them to the Hamilton Food Cupboard. We brainstormed how we could make this happen and wrote a proposal to the Hamilton Emerald Foundation, and they agreed to us with the money that we needed.
What we purchased was the $335 we were given. We were able to purchase the following: 3 long looms to make scarves, 1 sock loom, 10 loom sets, and over 200 spools of wood. Now we made over 30 hats and donated them to the Hamilton Food Cupboard to give them to local brothers.
There's some of our hats, and then here are members holding multiple hats or some of their hats. I think it ended up about 40 hats. This is made from Loom. I don't know if you've ever seen a Loom. I can go back. They come in these little kits, and it's if you ask somebody who knows how to knit, it's cheating. But that's what you guys, maybe your grandmother said that, right? Or somebody said that. It's funny, but it's really simple to do. It's kind of just like weaving and hooking, and so some of the kids already know how to do it, and some of us, like myself, watch the videos. There's some really wonderful videos where we taught ourselves how to do it, made some little pom-poms and got a little fancy, but it was a ton of fun.
So next year we would like to raise money to purchase more yarn. So here are some examples of projects we are considering. We would like to loom and even hats to donate to local nursery for newborn kids so that they can learn.
Create scarves in addition to hats. Make
And loom blankets for the elderly with the looms that we got.
Thank you.
Thank you guys.
The Emerald Foundation was gracious enough to award 2 student scholarships. Shelby Curtis was the recipient of 1, and Carissa Robin Smith, who couldn't be here tonight. I will read her letter after Shelby goes, so Shelby Curtis.
Hello, my name is Shelby Curtis. Last weekend I had the great opportunity to attend Hugh O'Brien Leadership Seminar, where I had the time of my life. I learned what it means to be a leader, what it takes, and what it actually means. Over the course of the weekend, we had many people come to us and talk to us about our futures, whether it's college, careers, or anything. I want my future to be full. I want to be able to have the most experience I can, because life is too short. Due to Hobie, I realized that I wanted to make a difference. I wanted my community to do something more and something together. We talked about community service, from picking up garbage to having fun runs and collecting money for a local charity. Everyone that was in a 20 to 30 mile radius of me came together and we talked about what we could do. We all noticed that we played sports, so we decided on doing a sports clinic for teens and kids. As soon as I was finished, now the stress of school was hanging over this. We are going to meet together and work and focus on the possibilities that we can to move forward and achieve this goal. The next day, we volunteered and helped kids. We volunteered our time to help kids. We planted flowers, picked up garbage, raked leaves, and even fixed cabins for kids to attend Camp Hollis in Oswego, New York. I had so much fun. Helping people and seeing their faces just makes me want to smile. It's amazing and it's outstanding. at the same time. Due to all the experience, I am dedicating myself to volunteer 100 hours of community service. So I'm able to go back and become a junior administrator. I will start by volunteering at the Father's Day Flying Breakfast at Hamilton Airport. I just want to say I'm very honored that the Emerald Foundation under my chair because of an experience I will never forget. Thank you.
This is a letter from Carissa Robin Smith. Dear Emerald Foundation, thank you so much for the generous donation to help me pay for my kit for my cosmetology class. Words can't explain how thankful I am to receive that help. Without the help from the Emerald Foundation, I wouldn't have been able to follow through with such a great program at the Madison Oneida BOEs. I couldn't imagine what life would look like now if I had not decided to go in that direction. Thank you so much. Sincerely, Carissa Robin Smith.
Jamie and Monica?
So we're going to do double duty. We're going to do back-to-back shows.
There we go. Forward in the right way. Okay, so the first project we're going to talk to you about is the book, I Will Always Write Back. Received a grant to use that in our classroom this year. To begin, how we came up and started with this idea was through the recommendation of Amy Jerome, who has read probably every single book that is in all both libraries. And she's usually spot on with her recommendations. So through her recommendation and through a parent who has contacts in Greece, we wrote a grant to the foundation and received money to buy a class set of books, which we will plan to use for many years. So we're going to talk to you about some of the activities that we did and how we use it in our classroom.
First of all, I apologize about the voice. I'm sitting right now. Adding a little flavor to my presentation. So here's the book. The book is basically about two kids that are in school, and it starts off as a school project, and they just spiral into lifelong friends that are still friends now. They attend each other's weddings. Just amazing story between this girl in Pennsylvania and this boy in Zimbabwe. So a couple of things that we did was we just explored and compared the different characters. So here is a couple of local entities that the state actually did. And we actually had a student that was visiting here from South Africa. And so for his assignment, which I regretfully didn't keep, he actually mailed me his assignment so that it would come in the mail like it would have gone in the mail. After we read the book, first of all, the kids could not put the book down. It was funny, it was something they could relate to. It went from young kids to teenagers to lifelong friends to marriage. So they really kind of connected with these two characters. And so when we were done, we started to kind of look at the bigger concepts that affected different parts of the book. So one being the 9/11, like how that affected their friendship and their relationship, and how each person and each side of this pen pal relationship was affected by this 9/11 situation. So we had set out like this big carousel activity with huge posters with a question on each one, and kids were able to just free willy-nilly go around and these are just the questions that were asked. I won't take up time to read all of them, but one of which was sort of like, why does Caitlin not really sort of entertain the idea that Martin, who says quite a bit, like one T-shirt that she sends him greatly increased his wardrobe, and she doesn't really like respond to that a whole lot. So that was one of the things that we really looked at. Is that for us, one T-shirt is like, oh, just another T-shirt, but for somebody who is from low-income situation, it greatly increased their situation. So these were some of the questions that we looked at. And so here are the finished. So the one over closest to Jamie is the 9/11 one, and that's the one that sparked the most debate. And you can see that it's just plastered with kids saying things, and they were growing off of each other. So somebody would write something, and then you would see them like rush over to like add on to that, or like write a question back. And so it was really good. And then came the fun time of sending letters. So we reached out to Patrick's Greece, to a school over there with Miss Lena, and she sent us a class list. We wrote letters, and then we waited what seemed like forever, because snail mail only goes so fast. Those were all of our letters that we sent.
Took a month to get there, right?
It took like a month and a half. We did like all the research of comparing like Hamilton to Patrick, like population, climate, time change, money, and then we tried to do our best to research how long it would take our letters to get there. And it was about a month and a little bit, but for us it seemed like forever. And then we finally started getting letters back, and that was the really cool part about all of this, is that these are just two examples. Now the only downfall is that we did not have, not all of our letters that come back, because their school year is much different than ours. So by the time we sent all of our letters, they were done school. So the teacher sent them home, and so the positive part of it is that now the kids have their home addresses. So the letters that are coming back are from the homes, and so kids are continuing to write letters back and forth to their homes, and they're hoping to become like their very own Caitlin and Martin. So I think we had 4 or 5 letters come back, and they're just filled with like the most innocent, adorable things like, I like Celine Dion. You know, and our kids here are like, who is Celine Dion? I'm like, well, I loved her when I was young. So it's been really neat. It's been neat for me to read, and it's been neat for the Mormons to read just the different things that they like to do, like they play soccer, how many siblings they have. It's really cool because this is a 5th grade class that we're writing to, and a lot of them are already taking 2 or 3 languages. So that's been very cool for our kids to see, and it's making them, I think, kind of chomp at the bit, and they want to take more languages in 6th grade. So sorry to the towns folks. And so when we were done with the book, just to sort of like a parting note, I just asked them, the new thing is like hashtags, like hashtag everything. Just to give the book like a hashtag, what would you give it? And so just a couple of them were like the pink ones were life lessons. The orange one, which you can't really see, it says one book that changed 2 lives, that changed, I think, my life or something like that. And then the last one was hashtag. It was a wonderful book.
And I think, for my takeaway, I think from my class is you never really know how these conversations and how the books are going to go. And to hear kids who are probably, the majority of them have never left this area, and who don't really know how lucky they are to have a reflection on, wow, that was really selfless, everything she did. I think that to me was a huge takeaway, was just what the kids realized from reading the letters and the relationship that formed between 2 strangers.
She pays for him to go to school. She sends him like $20, which
Let's not get
pays
too
for like
much away.
rent,
Just you know.
food. Yeah, okay. So go read the book. Go read the book. So yeah, they have a pen pal now for life, which is a great part of it. So
Good summary.
we thank the Emerald Foundation for that grant. It was a lot of fun to do.
We have one.
Oh, we're doing double duty.
Sorry.
But what is a joy? We're gonna have 2 people doing it. So we kind of presented on this last year, and we loved it so much that we're doing it again, only deeper. So we asked for funding to go to West Orange, New Jersey, to go to another deeper conference on Notice and Note with Bob and Kylie, and it did not disappoint.
Sure. So we started the year with reading the book, annotating, and then we started out the strategies. And like any sort of new thing, it it kind of starts off not necessarily the cleanest. But I think after we went to the conference, we were motivated to bring those strategies back into the classroom. It's a set of strategies that any student can use no matter what sort of fictional text that they are using. So, for example, the easiest one, or the first one that we could start with was contrast and contradiction. So, as you're reading a book, the students would come to realize that the character is acting out of how they would normally act, and they would stop and ask themselves the question, why would the character do that? And so that would then push them to think, okay, what's going to happen further in the book? Something is going to happen. So I think one of the things that we noticed was that any student, any level, any text was able to utilize these strategies. In any subject. We've used them quite a bit in science and social studies. They fit very nicely with doing things such as current events, just because the prompts were there. And it was easy for kids to just write longer, where you might get one-word response or sentence response. Kids are writing a full page on something that they never would have thought to write a page.
So yeah, this is basically the repetitive side. Just like kind of the big takeaways for the strategies. Some of the strategies are like somebody wanted let's sell, which we'll show you in like a slide. It just is a way to ask a kid to write something, and if you just kind of are like, write, they get very overwhelmed. But if you say, let's do somebody wanted let's sew, so somebody might be like Mrs. Fordway, wanted to get a drink, so she asked the class to hold on for a minute, so she went out and get a drink. That's a really bad example,
Okay, yeah.
but from there, you can build on it. So here's the somebody wanted but so. So it's, and you can do it multiple different ways, and one character can have multiple wanted, multiple so's, and multiple buts. And from there, you would be amazed when they say, I can't write anything. You give them somebody wanted but so, and they fly. So it's really good.
I think for us, it was easy to open the book. It was easy to use the strategies. It was easy to just implement, and once the kids knew the strategy, they just added on one another. So we really saw this come through when we were doing literary essays, because the idea is there that the character wanted something, or what did they want, or how did they change.
The big thing for me that made me just fall in love with this even more than I already am is that day 2 of safe testing, we had a student that got done and said, I am so glad that I learned something wanted but so, contrast and contradiction, because it made those questions so easy. And so for me, it's like, okay, those high stakes, pressure settings, they're still using and they're working. Now, I have no idea what he got for a score. I'm really hoping he did a good job, but the fact that he was even using them in that, for me, that was
In my classroom, I teach special education, and I often have kids reading maybe 4 or 5 books in the same class because they have different reading levels. And using the signpost is something I can do a mini lesson on, and it applies to every book. So they can all see the contrast and contradiction, and I can, do full class or small group. It really makes a great way to teach people. It really is any text, any classroom.
And even as an adult, as a reader, you find yourself using them. That it's just you can't
turn it off once it's on there. It just becomes like, oh, wait a minute, contrast and contradiction, we're to the wires there, put a post-it in there.
This was my first time. I have not done the fiction one.
Yeah.
This was the nonfiction, and even though it's advertised like 5 through 8 or whatever, in my 9th grade and 10th grade classes, I found it to be very useful for those kids who are struggling, and even ones who are not. I don't think they even know I'm doing it, but bringing those strategies in. I came back with the book, and I was like, oh, I haven't been this excited in a long time. Long time. So that was good for me to go and do this. Now I kind of want to go back and do a fiction. And there is, again, close by.
Yeah, right? Put that pin out there.
Hawaii.
Tropical. The next couple are just a couple other strategies, but I won't spend a ton of time. It's just strategy after strategy after strategy that the kids did and did well, and even surprised themselves. So they got really creative here with a couple. So you can tell on this one over here, I was like super excited. I wrote "killed it" on the top of it. So a really great job. So yeah, thank you again for another.
Quick question.
Yeah.
How, so for you, but how wide can we get this in the school? Like, so it's obviously also really successful. So what's the next step?
California right now.
I mean, here.
Yeah, no,
You guys are learning, we just teach it here.
I mean, I think if we can just continue to try it, I mean, like, we have Kim Cunningham is also using it, and Herm as well. I know Mike Sidorin is helping in 5th grade. So I think we're kind of continuing, the bubble is getting bigger, and I think the bigger it gets,
I don't want to say it's replacing the thinking strategies, but it's kind of replacing the thinking strategies. It's much easier to do than saying asking a student in isolation, make an inference. This is you're already doing it. To me, it's not as effective or not more effective, but more effective.
in some ways, it really gets easier for the kids to just grasp and go forever.
Definitely something to look into.
It fits well in the curriculum.
It does, yeah. It's easily implemented.
And it allows kids to just read and to enjoy reading. Yep. Thank you.
Monica and I just had dinner together at Rush's, and it kills me to hear her speak because of her voice, and I can just hear that like, like as a singing teacher, there's nothing worse that can happen. We're here to present about the funding that we received for the musical. We received $2,500, which is an incredible amount, and we try to use it always wisely, and it just affects such a huge group of students. 70 students, and all of them are in costumes to as close a time period as we can get. And to sort of give you an example with costumes, if we rented all of our costumes just for a week, the amount of money that it costs to rent costumes from a professional costume company is about $5,000. So we do not do that. We do not do that, but we try to through wonderful customer Nancy Schultz. She makes purchases of things that we can use again, and she organizes it really well. And we try to reuse as much of the materials as we can. The big expenses that we have, of course, are show rights. Show rights for any high school musical are going up every year because those are the licensing rights. We can't charge money for our musical unless we purchase these rights. And usually it's been less expensive in the past. Now it's pretty much always above $2,000. So that's just for the book and the music, just for the book and the music, nothing else. And then if you put in a wonderful example of the set that we have. Wonderful volunteers who come out to help us build these. You know, many of them are unpaid, and they just put their time and care, you know, into this. And the way that we can help them is by purchasing these set materials and finding people to, you know, experts to build them for us.
And then reuse.
Yes, and reusing them and making them. This is a wonderful example of lighting, new lighting here. Lights that we buy for, you know, the school, and we keep those lights. So, and we have this new room, you can't really see it, but it's supposed to be there. And I just threw this in here. This is me in 9th grade. This was me 6 years later, my senior recital. Huge confidence difference from the tree to the road. Just threw that in there. So this is another example. Kevin Schultz did not know how to juggle. He now will take that skill with him forever. And these guys are just having a great time. TJ Larson is on a unicycle. It just brings out these talents that you wouldn't normally see in kids. And it's so much fun to see them happy and thrilled. This is another picture I just love because I believe a student painted this. Actually, who was that? Ian. Okay, and so just a really nice collaboration, and these guys had so much fun with their dry military humor. And now, I do have to say, all these pictures now, Donna was not in many of these pictures because she was taking them. Okay, so she was there with us, working very hard.
There's no proof.
But it just shows, you know, the costumes, the set, the people involved, the amount of students it affects, and the time and opportunity to give students who just, especially through the professional kid orchestra, these are live musicians who we are hiring to come into our school and give these kids this opportunity. And it's not something that happens without support.
We have kids who get to play with those musicians. That's a whole different kettle of fish.
Yes, especially this year, I think we had 12 student musicians in the pit. So they're each next to sort of a professional player and learning, you know, what it's like to be in the professional world as a musician. So it's a great opportunity for somebody, and especially dancing as well. And just great. I love these kids, and but this, you know, there's only so much that I can sort of do, but without the financial support of Hamilton Foundation, it would only go so far. And it just raises it into this incredible opportunity because of that. Thank you very much.
And you'll be happy to know that, and I'm going to do this because it's really more of a plug for another organization that has agreed to support the Emerald Foundation so that we can support the music industry here. So Sigma Chi Foundation in Colgate is going to be supporting the Emerald Foundation for 3 years. They're looking for recurring needs, and so they would like the first of their grants to us to go to next year. So that'll be $2,500, which is what we usually do. So we're really pleased about that.
Thank you.
You're set.
Yes, sure.
All right, so I'm speaking on behalf of Jess Poyer, who did a grant for, well, she wanted me to read this for you. I'd like to sincerely thank the Emerald Foundation for funding the prize speaking after school enrichment club. She regrets that she cannot be in attendance tonight, but she has 2 previously scheduled events. This year's 17th, 3rd grade through 5th graders worked for 8 weeks after school to memorize a poem, speech, short story, or section of a book that they grade to choose themselves. The students presented their selections to an audience in the auditorium in February. Students were judged based on a set of criteria which included difficulty, poise, memorizations, gestures, posture, movement, voice, volume, clarity of speech, and communication. Students were awarded prizes, top 3 categories. PTO helped us out with that. So they were cash gift cards to Target. The kids won. I think that we can all agree that public speaking is a soft skill that employers are looking for. The fact that 17, 8, and 10-year-olds displayed such confidence and poise makes me feel so proud for our future. In closing, one of the students' speech, the first prize winner, but I have the wrong computer, doesn't plug into that one. I can't show that, but I attended. We actually had 2 separate assemblies for the kids. They did a night event for parents and community members, which was well attended. And then the kids did so well, we actually did an assembly for the kids the next day, and all the kids got to see the perform for their peers. I just would like to say that, and it's kind of, will go off of what the last presentation was about, the drama club. When you have kids that are up in front of large audiences, taking on leadership positions, you're building skills, communication, resiliency, self-advocacy, and they're skills that they will take throughout their life, that they need in college, that they're going to need in their careers, and they're just real amazing experiences for them. Huge confidence builders. I saw kids that I never dreamed would be up doing a 2, 3, 4-minute speech in front of a large audience and doing it confidently. And to see them after they finish the speech walk down and their expressions and talk to me the next day about it, they're changed life experiences. Thank you, Elmo Foundation, for allowing us to do that. That's great.
Yes.
I'm going to be presenting about a club that I started this year called Destination Imagination that the Hamilton Foundation generously helps to support. Destination, some of you may have heard of Odyssey of Mind. I think that was a program running here for many years. Destination Imagination is like an offshoot of that organization. Very similar model. Destination Imagination takes a little bit more, a less, well, it's still very competitive, but awarding points versus docking points. We just have a little bit of a different attitude. So we started this in November and it ran through April. This is just from their website. They're all about creative thinking, team building, problem solving, all of those 21st century skills, STEAM, and all of those big buzzwords sort of wrapped into this arts package, which is what I really loved about it. So the kids solve these different science, technical challenges, but then they have to make a presentation that involves performance skills as well. So we sent out to see how many students might be interested, and I thought maybe I'd start with just one team, but I ended up having about 35 elementary students express interest. So we formed 5 teams of 7 students in grades 2 through 5, and I had several parents sign up as team managers, and I ran a few teams myself, and that was really exciting. It was a lot more interest than I anticipated. I had heard about this in another school, and I thought maybe we'd have a small little pilot, and it sort of exploded. So they were running 3 days a week, every week from November to April, and my classroom housed many props and costumes and children all the time, every day. So that was really fun. It became a common language among a bunch of kids in those grades. So the way that the process works, Destination Imagination, when you sign up, they send you a roadmap, which are sort of like, it's almost like a curriculum. They have a lot of team building activities and things like that, which is really, really nice. We used them a lot in the beginning, and then as the kids started to create their projects, we went off of them a little bit more. But they did a lot of team building in the beginning, and they had to choose a challenge, which I'll show the next slide. And then once they had chosen their challenge, then they had to build a solution to that challenge, which involved many elements. And then they also practiced along the way these things called instant challenges. So they might put a stack of like printer paper in front of the kids and say, build a tower as tall as you can in 3 minutes without speaking to each other and only using paper. Or sometimes it was, you're the superheroes and you're the villains and you have to plan a presentation from opposite sides of the room and then perform it in front of the judges. So they would have all these little instant challenges that they had to, solve in just a few minutes. So I really liked that this program has the long-term project planning aspect of it, but also has that thinking on your feet and sort of the more quick cooperating. They presented at both regional and state tournaments, which was really fun. We got to travel and do some things like that. And the big thing about Destination Imagination is that it's all kids. In fact, all the adults involved and all the kids' parents had to sign a form that they would not interfere. There's this big thing called interference with a capital I should have put it here. They're big on the capital letters. And the kids would say, I'd say like, well, maybe you should, and they'd be like, stop, you can't tell us not to use duct tape. They got really serious about making the solutions their own and not letting the adults or their siblings, other kids in the school interfere. And if they were using, we were using X-Acto knives one day, like box cutters, and I said, I can help you with this part. And they're like, are you sure? We don't want to get docked points. I said, no, I'm going to help you use the box cutter. So but my point is that they just really took ownership over it. So these are just the different types of challenges that they had. They had a technical challenge this year, the pace of change. They had to create a vehicle that changed movement methods every time it went across the stage and incorporate it into a story that included character change. In Plain Sight was a science challenge that they had to include camouflage characters, do a bunch of research, musical mashup. None of our teams did, but they had to create a musical instrument that could also support a bunch of weight put on top of it. Get a clue, they had to write a mystery with 3 different endings, and they didn't find out which ending they'd be performing until they were in front of the judges, and it had to be set in a certain time period. Close Encounters was the improv challenge, which none of our groups did. I think they had to research being in like a small space, like a space shuttle or different things like that. And then they always have a service event, which was the meme event, and again, none of our groups did that. So they could have created like a community event to raise money for something. So we did Pace of Change in Plain Sight and Get a Clue. This is just a small snapshot of what the challenges look like. They are in incredible depth, like more complicated than like a college syllabus, than like the instructions for, I don't know, putting together something complicated. They just have like 6 pages of intense details of things they have to include. Like you can use wheels here, but you can't, you'll lose points if you use wheels twice, and it has to be able to support this person sitting on it, but they can't be the person who's pushing it. So it took a lot of, the kids really had to focus in and break each challenge down bit by bit by bit. And 2 of our teams found out at our regional competition that their solution was totally wrong. They would have gotten 0 points. And instead of falling apart, they just went back and they fixed it. And it was like the day before the state tournament until they figured out exactly what they were going to do. So they had to do a lot of problem solving, and all the adults had to just hope that they figured it out, and they did a really wonderful job. So actually before this, they got to go to Cornell, and they did just a 1 little day event where they did a bunch of those little instant challenges, which was a really fun practice. And then our first showcase was in Central New York. There was, I think, only 11 teams there, and 5 of them were from HCS, which is really cool. Central New York, DI, as it's called, is much smaller than the other New York regions, so they don't have a competitive regional version. They probably will in the future. So it was really nice. We just got to go and showcase without really getting judged. It was a really good practice run for us. So here are the kids with their little awards and doing some of their different presentations. You can see they made all the costumes themselves. If they wanted me to go buy something, they had a budget that they had to keep track of every penny they spent. And if they wanted me to buy something, they had to research the cost and tell me what color and what type and what size screws and things like that. Then we went to this big state tournament in Binghamton, which was, you can sort of see in the background here just how many, I think there was at least 100 teams there. And they had to present there, and they did get judged. So you can see here is sort of the closing ceremony, and there was just a ton of things there. And the exciting thing is none of our teams placed for their big challenges, but one of our teams got an award for their instant challenge. They got the high score in their group. So it was really nice because Hamilton did come away with a little something. And I had a lot of feedback from parents as well that their kids just really loved having ownership over the process. And the kids have eagerly asked and asked if they'll get to be in it again, if they can keep their same teams. And the teams really bonded throughout some really rocky moments of arguments and not knowing if things were going to work. And then when they saw that it did and they made it happen, I think that was really, really powerful for them to see that they had this process. So thank you so much for helping us to launch that and make that possible.
What did you assist me on?
Well, the money from Emerald Foundation helped to structure of it, the kids actually did pitch in some money because the fees for registering teams are somewhat hefty because they send you lots of materials and you go to all these tournaments. So I do think that if this is something that's continued to be run in the future, I do think that more support for supplies and things like that could be really helpful because we had to be really stingy with like finding, which actually was kind of a bit less than like finding cardboard and finding things at home and things like that. So I do think that, you know, more funding might support more kids being able to do that, but the big thing is finding parents for these teams. It's a big time commitment, it is. So, but thank you so much. It was a really, really fun and crazy ride for all of us, but I think we're all really glad that it happened. Okay, I'm also presenting, it's officially Rob Posner put into the grant, but it was for both of our grades, so I'm just going to read the little blurb that he put up here. We also went to the zoo this year, which we have done for several years, as supported by the Emerald Foundation as part of our big rainforest project. So the zoo was used to pay for the Zoo to You presentation, which is a presentation put on by the Syracuse Zoo where they tailor a little specific lesson specifically to what we're learning. And the zoo staff members who are experts on endangered species hold about a 45-minute class, which you can see here on our class website. And they learned facts about the rainforest. They discussed why rainforests in the world are in so much danger. She brought out 3 different animals, which was really fun, including a Madagascar hissing cockroach, which we all got to say, and a parrot, which I don't think I got pictures of at that point. But here she is sort of showing the different heights of the rainforest trees and things like that. They talked a lot about how the animals were adapted to their specific biome. It was really, really nice. It sort of launched our rainforest unit this year, and it gave kids a lot of foundation for coming back to the classroom to study. And then after that, oh yeah, here I did get a picture of the cockroach. You can't really see it, but here they are petting the cockroach. There was also like some sort of horned toad, and then a parrot that they have every year that it's fun to see. Here they are touching some feathers of some, magnificent rainforest birds. And then they also had time to then go out and explore in the zoo, and they sort of went on a hunt to find different rainforest animals and take notes, which then launched our whole unit of study. So it's just really fun. That's actually at school. So it's really fun for the kids to have that hands-on time at the zoo, and it puts our unit on the rainforest in context. Because we're in Hamilton, most of them will probably never get to visit a jungle in their lives. So getting to actually see a real rainforest animal at a zoo, but also in connection with schools, is really wonderful. So thank you for that.
I'm going to change the order just a little bit because we have John with us today. We were approached earlier this year by a Hamilton alum, Kenji Yoshino, who brought an idea that he had developed, which was a microscope stand to be able to, so that you don't have to have one single person looking through the lens of a microscope, but you can use an iPad or some sort of iPhone or any sort of mobile device with a camera. John was in all 3 classes that were able to use this microscope, so I'll let him explain a little bit of what they did in each of the classes, and I'll just skip through some of the pictures while he's talking. So go ahead.
So the first class that we actually worked on this thing was black collar leadership, and we all came together and just talked about what we could do with it and what we thought of the idea. And so what we decided to do was come down to elementary and actually show them what this was and just teach them about things that they normally can't see. Because you can talk to them about whatever you want, but it's a lot different when you can actually put it in front of them and let them view it. And it just really changes their perspective on what things actually are. And then after working black collar leadership, this
with digital photography, it was really exciting because though I've done collaborative work with Johanna Bozers, the working class and ag classes, sort of combining very, very hands-on class with also hands-on art class, this was a great opportunity to delve into interdisciplinarity and bring science and art together. So for the project, Kenji was in the classroom for 5 classes. First, just as an introduction, students actually assembled the microscopes, so we taught them how to build them, which was really wonderful. And then we spent the rest of that class on practicing, and over 2 days, students brought in objects. And the purpose behind this project was for students to really get out of the notion that, okay, here's my science class, and I'm going to look through a microscope at cells in order to determine, like, okay, so ectoplasm, all the science stuff. But very, very limited in terms of this is science for science purposes. Okay, now I'm going to art, and I'm going to draw and use charcoal and graphite, and then I'll put a little bit of watercolor on that. And then I'll go to math, and then I'll do this. So instead of having these isolated things, it was wonderful to have an opportunity where science meets art and art meets science. That way they could investigate it. Additionally, it put a fun twist on an art project because if you look at the project that they came up with, so this is Yasmin Hanowitz, and that hair that she took photographs of, we decided to go with circular shapes, very, very clean white backgrounds to play up the whole scientific notion, presentation of how can art become scientific, and vice versa in terms of presentation. And these are photographs from Eamon, salt, and then a leaf. And so we altered the colors of them to create these really wonderful abstract scientific compositions. And this is Brennan's photograph of money. Really fun. These photographs were then printed very generously by the Colby Print Shop, which was really kind of them. And then they were displayed at the number 10 Tavern for the month of February and March. So the whole time got to see the works up, and there was a description of the project.
Sorry, really quickly. Two quick things to mention. In Black Collar, it was great teacher for students. Kenji came in and showed them how to use the microscope, and then he kind of just took a hiatus for a couple weeks and let the class come up with a way to use it and bring it to the elementary classes. And I remember after the first one, we came back and the class had decided to scrap a couple of things that they had done with that class and change a couple things and change even the pace of what they did. And that was really neat to see them come up with those ideas to change and adapt the lesson that they had created. Also, while we were in the elementary, a couple of the teachers had mentioned it would be really nice to have these microscopes and to have a set of them. And Kenji and I had already been talking about getting a set, and the Emerald Foundation grant was able to support that, getting a set for the elementary and for the high school. For the elementary, more iPad-based, or at least tablet size, and for the high school, phone size. So.
This was the new one, so Kenji's now in second generation mode of these microscopes. Is that the ones that he's given to the school for the high school has a single lens as well as double lens, so twice my hours. And also, just as a note, Marcus really sorry that he wasn't able to be here.
I also wanted to just interject. It costs $10 for the materials to build this thing, and he's posted it on YouTube. So if anyone else is fascinated with this is a very doable project for any of the kids that kind of got interested and stuff by it. So that's really cool.
Does this take the place of microscopes in the science, in the science classes? I mean,
It could.
is it as good? Or is it?
It has limitations to it due to the curvature of the lens, because the actual
says I'd like to thank the Hamilton Emerald Foundation for funding my participation in the conference entitled "The Science of Character Using Brain Research to Raise Student Self-Regulation, Resilience, and Respect." This conference focused mainly on how students learn to self-regulate, show resilience, and show respect. A procession of neuroscientists unveiled the latest research on how students learn to be good citizens. After going to this conference, I joined a collaborative colleagues group and shared notes from the 10 sessions I joined while at the conference. For example, I shared how self-control, which research suggests is the most important skill we can teach our students, can be infused into lessons to cool the hot systems of student brains, and how students can learn to stay out of trouble by avoiding what they recognize are the roadblocks to their learning. I also shared how deliberate teaching can help students build resilience, and how focusing on students' signature strengths helps students become moral citizens. I hope the information gained from this conference can help our school develop an even better mindfulness program in the future. Again, your gift allowed me to attend this wonderful conference. Thank you very much. Oh, yeah, in the black collar, another one, sorry. In the black collar class, we had, the Emerald Foundation was kind enough to grant us, I believe it was $500 to a student competition where the students presented different ideas to improve the school or to add things to the school. The group that won, there was a panel of voters, and the group that won, in the process of developing their plan and their idea, they were actually able to get materials from the county. So they didn't end up using the grant, but the grant created a catalyst and an impetus for these students to come up with ideas and present these ideas and implement them. So when in the end they said, oh, we were able to get it all anyway, and they were excited about putting it out there. So that was the recycling project that they had done, where they were able to get recycling materials and boxes and other canisters to add to what we already had for the initiative that we had here again. So thank you.
And that was fun because it was done in a Shark Tank type setting, so it was a lot of fun. I'm going to give an update on our middle school summer academy. The Emerald Foundation has been gracious enough for 2 years in a row to fund our middle school academy for some of our struggling learners. We've had 25 students go through that program in the last 2 years, and thank you to Dan. He put together some statistics for us that I'd like to share with you because I think it's important to show the impact that it's having on our students and the success that they are now seeing as they transition from middle school to high school. 25 students. Of those 25 students, 92% of them improved their grades in at least half of their core subject areas. And 64% of those students improved their grades in all of their core subject areas that they had been failing prior to attending. Of the 25 students, 21 had received a failing grade in math. Of those, 95% of them improved their math score after attending. The range of improvement was 1 to 26 points with an average increase of 11 points in their math grades. Outstanding. Of those 25 students, 10 had received a failing grade in ELA. Of those students, 80% improved their ELA score, and the range was 5 to 30 points with an average increase of 19 points in ELA. So with some targeted interventions, notice and note, which is used in our summer academy, some of those strategies are definitely paying off with some of our struggling learners. And the success that's worked with Jamie and Monica and Dan and Kim in our summer academy is starting to pay off for them as they transition. So it's been a tremendous success for our students. I'd also like to talk about our BMX bike initiative. We finally have the bikes back after our brakes have been calibrated so the students can actually use them now. So we're going to infuse that into our summer academy this year. It's a PBL STEM initiative where they infuse math and science using the bikes so they can actually go outside, do lessons, STEM lessons and initiatives using the bikes outside. So that'll be part of the capstone project in our middle school summer academy. So thank you to the Emerald Foundation for both of those. It's had a tremendous impact on the academic success of our struggling learners in the middle school. So we're very thankful for that. And I think we have one more. Brian.
So I'm back. If you remember, fairly recently I came and talked about the summer grant that I did in terms of organizing communications class. And this kind of dovetails in with this as we got the communications class up and running. We needed new cameras, and the grant that the foundation provided for us allowed us to purchase 4 brand new cameras that take still and video. And it was really, really needed. The cameras that we had 4 left that were serviceable. Of the 4, and these cameras were all at least 5 years old. Of the 4, 2 worked intermittently, and so it was very difficult to get any projects accomplished. But with the grant and the purchase of the cameras, we were able to do a lot of stuff, and the kids, I think, had a really, really great time with it. And it went beyond the communications class as well. I'd like to talk a little bit secondarily how it helped before I go into the main usage, which was the communications class. Secondarily, the cameras that the foundation, the grant purchased for us, allowed for yearbook to produce their theme reveal. They did a little movie, and so the cameras were used for that. In addition, the math apps class came up and used them for projects that they were doing. And as well, through another one of my classes, the AP Lit class, their final exam is to do a dramatic interpretation of a poem, which they create poems for, and certainly some people are familiar with that since they had children who were doing those up until the day they were due. But the videos have come out wonderfully for that. We're almost through reviewing those in class, and the kids really, I think, appreciated being able to have access to those cameras and be able to use them for those classes. And it became, the secondary uses came a little bit more and more as people became aware that the cameras were there and available to be signed out and used by a greater populace, not just the communications class, not just the film and theater class. And so it did help. Coming back to its primary uses, we started out the year with a brand new class of communications, and the class opted to do video news rather than to stay with the Emerald Press. And I know people were upset about that, but it was really the kids. I wanted them to have the feedback, the hands-on, do what they desired to do. And video was what they wanted. And so we started out with that. Again, until we got the cameras in, things were a little shaky in terms of making sure everybody could get access to the cameras, and the quality was certainly not as good as the new cameras once they came in. But the kids became better and better at producing their news pieces and getting entire productions. And if you have followed the Hamilton Facebook page, you'll have seen the posts as well as the YouTube page as well that did that. Now, if you have been following, you noticed probably too a drop-off in that. And that really comes as a result of another project we did in the fall, which was the promotional video for Hamilton Central School. The kids found that they loved doing that. They wanted big projects, things that needed more planning to do. And that's something that comes behind these cameras. The videos that you see produced by these kids is the end product. What you're not seeing behind these cameras and their use is the fact that these kids spent hours planning how this is going to be, editing, voicing over, figuring out what text is going to go and how things need to look, and looking at other videos and saying, all right, how can we professionally mimic these things? And there are just hours of time spent behind the actual use of the camera before they even get to it. And so that was great too. But once they got a taste of doing big projects, they said, this is what we want to do. And so that is why the news has kind of morphed into a production house for Hamilton. And we've done some other things as well. Moving into that,
One of the first ones after that was the class videotaped interviews and other things for the XQ Super School grant that Hamilton applied for. And they they found the people to sit down, they interviewed them, they had to cut the videos and edit them together. So we were used for that. In addition, for pieces of the Chris Schenkel Memorial video, the cameras were used in the creation of that. Other things, we were contacted by the Hamilton Area Community Coalition to create public service announcements for Alcohol Awareness Month. We produced two videos, one which was a statistic-oriented and one which was a little bit more a scripted kind of thing, warning about improper use of alcohol. They've been passed, Melissa, my contact there, has told me, has emailed me, they're still trying to figure out how they're going to present these, how they want to put these out, but they were absolutely floored by the videos that were sent in and were amazed at the quality of the pieces that we were able to produce. In addition, just recently we produced a video for the kindergarten classes on the weather. Yeah, I know it's on the elementary page. It's been up a couple days longer on the high school and middle school page, but that was it. And so the kids had to learn how to work with kindergartners. You can imagine the guys coming down, these juniors and seniors, and having to, sit there and realize what it takes to work with people who are not their own age, and being able to capture all of the things that are there. And so they really liked doing that. The senior who did a lot of the editing and got the thank you was he was bored. He got it. He just kind of sat there looking at the thank you note the kindergartners wrote to him, and just you could kind of see him kind of getting a little red as everybody's looking at him. And I told him we could turn him into a superstar and take him down, but he declined. That was a more recent one. Coming even further, too, and of course, Andrew, I hope you've gotten the jump drive from Zach.
In my pocket.
We were asked by the Hamilton Emblem Foundation to produce a promotional video for them as well. And we've produced a Mark 1. We've got feedback from Andrew and hopefully Mark 2. Okay, so, but we produced a promotional video for the Hamilton Emerald Foundation as well, using the cameras. And of course, that was a more interviewing of themselves, and the editing that goes along with it. One of the biggest uses, though, and I've saved this to last because this is really, really a kind of cool thing. Not only the communications class, but the film and literature class are producing short films. If you're not aware, next Tuesday, the 14th, there is a mini student short film festival down at the movie theater, arranged with Sean Medicine to show the films that are being screened in Theater 1, so big theaters, big theater. There we just, we watched the two films from Film is Lit today in class, and the use of the cameras for those was phenomenal. And I'm expecting 6 films tomorrow from my communications class. That was kind of their final exam. They had to create a short film. And so, of course, all the scripting and everything goes along with this. But ulteriorly, or going along with this, the big reason for this is Grant Slater of Slater Brothers Entertainment has been in contact with me over the past several years about submitting student films to their film festival, the Hamilton International Film Festival in July. And this is the first time we've been able to submit multiple student films to the film festival, and they will be shown at this International Film Festival on July 28th. It's a Thursday. Grant has wanted to, before they were kind of interwoven within the screens. This time, though, they've decided there's going to be just a day for student film. And so this is really kind of neat.
we're gonna have 8 Hamilton Central School films shown. We have Katie Weeks's alumni, one of the HCS alumni is having a film shown. And listening to Grant 2, there are going to be submissions from Europe, Canada, and the U.S. As well. And all of these films are going to be shown on this one day. And just as a side note, Grant has indicated to me via email very nicely that all of the receipts from that night are going to be donated to Hamilton Central School. It's really kind of an honor. These kids got an invitation to the reception that's being held on Friday night. They are getting screen passes. They're getting screen passes to attend all of the sessions. It's their film directors, the producers, and that's what these cameras have done. They provided a project-based, hands-on, means of expressing themselves and getting themselves out there, and creating some. If they're not going into film or video, and this is a heck of a resonant piece to say, hey, my film was shown in an internationally known film festival. So these cameras have just given kids so much and allowed them to do so much this year. And the things that I'm seeing from the beginning of the year, where it was I'm just going to slap something together, to now the meticulous thought that's going into what music are we going to use, how these transitions work here. It's less of me standing over the top of them saying let's go, into hey, we're going to create something really unique. If I had brought one of the pieces, I would have really superseded the time, so I apologize, but it's kind of also a tease too to get everybody to come on Tuesday and come and see some of these works.
What time is it Tuesday?
5:30 on Tuesday, and admission is free that day for the film. So I'm hoping that you can come and see the fruits of the labor that they've done, all as a result of this grant. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
I'm going to end this by saying a little bit about the foundation. Because when Andrew was talking, it sounded like, this is easy, but it's not easy. They've been doing this for 10 years. And I was the school rep for the first 3 years, and of course everybody was really excited. It was brand new. I came back 2 years ago to be school rep again, and they're just as excited. And what you do is extraordinary. They find donors. They try to match donors with their interests. They're always trying to find new donors. They call on people. They do mail campaigns. They do a lot of publicity without the really creative things teachers who do and students who do. And they're amazing. I'm going to just say Andrew Covington and Heather Julian and Sally Campbell, who does it kind of with the backbone issue. They spend hours and hours of volunteer time doing this, not only during the school year, but in summer. And some night, if you're driving downtown and you see a light on with a match on, it's these guys. They have this movie. And I think it's extraordinary. I think it's extraordinary. I think it's something.
You're welcome. But this is really about all of you grant recipients tonight. We don't ask for a lot in terms of but we ask for this night of presentation because it's our way of understanding what
Our
is
favorite,
going on.
yeah. Well, and thank you to all the teachers and staff members who responded with videos, photos, words, because when we put that up on the website, in the newsletters, the donors see it, more donors see it, more alumni see it, and they get a really vested interest in the school, what's going on, and that's what makes them want to give into real genuine projects, and that's what makes Hamilton special. And it's hard work doing that, I know. So thank you to you guys who put the ideas out there and also everything else that you're doing.
And thank you, Terry, for those kind words.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. I love watching you guys work, and I get to leave after a half hour. It's so